Imagine you are just selling your old bike online.
Right.
A buyer messages you, they agree to your asking price, let's say 50,000 rupees, and everything seems perfectly normal.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Exactly. So to finalize the deal, they send you this simple QR code on WhatsApp and just tell you to scan it to receive the funds. And, you've done this a million times.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
scan the code, your payment app opens up, you quickly punch in your peon, and instantly 50,000 rupees vanishes from your bank account. It's just gone.
It happens in the literal blink of an eye. And what's truly terrifying about that scenario is that the person who just took the money, they didn't write a single line of malicious code.
Right.
They didn't hack a bank server. They completely bypassed the technology and hacked the human operating the phone.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We've got our hands on this brilliant, honestly, deeply unsettling source text titled The Architecture of Deception. It's all about navigating India's cyber fraud landscape.
It is a fascinating read.
It really is. And our mission for you, the listener, is to kind of unpack the reality of this threat. We want to explore how the incredible, friction-free convenience of digital India, an ecosystem where you can buy a cup of tea or a used car in seconds using apps like Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm, how that has inadvertently created this totally unregulated frontier for psychological manipulation.
Yeah, what's so interesting here is the massive shift in how cybercrime actually operates now. If we look back, say, even 10 years, the focus was entirely on cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
Firewalls, encryption, building these taller and taller digital walls.
Right, the tech side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this material highlights a really fundamental truth. Human beings are the path of least resistance. Every single year across India, crores of rupees are siphoned out of accounts, and it is rarely because a bank's actual security was compromised.
Wow.
It's because an everyday user was psychologically cornered into basically unlocking the vault themselves.
There is this quote right at the beginning of our material that I think perfectly sets the stage for what we're talking about today. It says, "Scammers don't require hacking systems, they hack people."
That's the core of it.
Yeah. And to understand exactly how people are being hacked, we first really have to look at the environment we're all swimming in. The rapid adoption of digital payments in India over the last few years, it's nothing short of an infrastructural miracle.
Oh, absolutely.
It's created this beautiful, seamless convenience for all of us. But that very seamlessness, that blind, everyday trust we place in a simple QR code, is actually our greatest vulnerability.
We are dealing with what you could call the convenience paradox. UI and UX designers at these major tech companies, they spend billions of dollars figuring out how to remove friction from our digital lives.
They want it to be invisible.
Right. They want transactions to be invisible. But when you remove all the friction from a system, you also strip away that critical pause, that little moment of hesitation that traditionally allowed us to evaluate risk.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think about the analog world. Counting out 50,000 rupees in physical cash takes time. It gives your brain a moment to catch up, to assess the situation, to look at the person. In the digital world, the system moves so incredibly fast that our critical thinking literally cannot keep up with our thumbs.
Okay, let's unpack this using that bike sale scenario from Gujarat, because this is a real case study we pulled right from the text, and the mechanics of it are just mind-blowing.
Sure.
Logically, entering a secret PIN to receive money makes absolutely no sense.
Not at all.
That is like me giving a stranger the keys to my house just so they can, drop a package on my front porch. It defies all basic logic. So if I were to look at this from a purely cognitive perspective, it's kind of like driving home from work on autopilot.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
When you pull into your driveway and you realize you don't actually remember the last 4 turns you made?
Yeah, because the brain offloads repetitive tasks to the subconscious just to save energy.
Right, so when you use these payment apps daily, you're paying the auto driver, splitting a bill at a restaurant, buying groceries, scanning a code, and entering a PIN becomes pure muscle memory.
Exactly.
The scammer isn't actually trying to outsmart your logic. They are just moving a stop sign while you're driving on autopilot.
That is a brilliant way to frame the collect request scam. The fraudster basically creates a context where your brain is primed to expect money. You've negotiated the sale of the bike, the dopamine is flowing because, hey, you secured the deal.
You're excited.
Right. And then you see a prompt on your phone screen. Because you are in that autopilot state you mentioned, your brain just processes prompt on payment app as enter PN.
You don't even read it.
You don't read the fine print that clearly says pay instead of receive. In the rush of the moment, the muscle memory takes over. Your thumb tacks out those 4 or 6 digits, and the trap just snaps shut.
So they are literally banking on the fact that we don't actually read our screens anymore. We just, we react to shapes and colors.
We react to familiar interfaces. And this brings us to the absolute golden rule of digital payments. This is a baseline defense that you, the listener, just have to internalize.
What is it?
A UPI PIN is exclusively used to send money out of your account. You never, under any circumstances, need to enter a PIN to receive funds into your account. If an app asks for your PIN, money is leaving, period.
And once you understand that they're exploiting our fast twitch reactions like that,
Yeah.
you start to see variations of this everywhere.
Oh, yeah, they're incredibly creative.
Like you get fake payment screenshots
Yeah.
where someone claims they transferred the money, relying on you just glancing at the green check mark instead of actually checking your bank balance.
Right.
Or those refund frauds where you get a call saying you were double charged for a delivery and you just need to scan a code to quote-unquote authorize the refund. The core defense mechanism is incredibly simple, but it's really difficult to practice. You just have to slow down.
Force yourself to break the autopilot. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanics of payment apps are really just the tip of the spear. Fraudsters are highly adaptive. Once they realized they could bypass logic by hijacking our reflexes, they moved into environments where our emotional guards are completely lowered.
Social media.
They moved right to social media.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, if muscle memory is the flaw in our fast twitch everyday tasks, what happens when scammers target our emotional reflexes? The material details cases across platforms like Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, where the goal isn't just to steal a single transaction.
Right, it's bigger than that.
They want to steal your entire digital identity to cast this massive net over your friends and family.
Because we aren't expecting a highly targeted psychological attack when we're just scrolling through photos of our friends' vacations. We are relaxed. We are vulnerable.
There is a terrifying breakdown in the research of a student who receives a direct message. And it looks incredibly official, complete with the platform's actual logo.
Those can look so convincing.
Very convincing. It says, your Instagram account has been flagged for a community guidelines violation and will be deleted in 24 hours. Verify your identity now to prevent deletion.
And panic sets in.
The student panics, clicks the link, and is taken to a login page. They punch in their username and password, and within seconds, they are locked out. The hackers immediately change the recovery email, lock the student out completely, and start messaging every single person in the student's contact list.
Posing as them.
Posing as them, begging for emergency funds for some fake medical crisis.
It takes the architecture of a classic phishing attack and weaponizes the intimacy of the platform. They aren't just compromising a database, right? They are hijacking the established trust that the victim's social circle already has in them.
But I have to push back here because this is where a lot of people get stuck. I consider myself pretty deeply immersed in tech. I know what a bad URL looks like, but we've seen the evolution of these phishing links. If the link takes you to a page that is a pixel-perfect clone of the real login page, the identical CSS, the exact same fonts, the exact same branding, how is the average informed person supposed to know it's a trap in that split second?
Well, that's the thing. The visual design isn't the giveaway anymore. Visuals can be cloned with automated tools in a matter of seconds. The footprint of the scam really is the emotion the message provokes.
The emotion.
Yes. This is where we have to look at the biology of what's happening. When you read a message that says, your account will be deleted, your brain perceives a sudden existential threat to your social standing or your digital life.
The amygdala hijacks.
Precisely that. The amygdala, which processes our fear and threat response, just sounds the alarm. Your body is instantly flooded with adrenaline and cortisol.
So you're in full fight or flight mode.
Exactly. And from a neurological standpoint, when that happens, blood flow is literally diverted away from your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for logic, critical thinking, skepticism. You are biologically incapable of evaluating the URL in that moment because your brain is just screaming at you to resolve the threat immediately.
That is wild. So the panic isn't just a byproduct of the scam. The panic is the actual weapon. They need you to be biologically incapable of noticing that the web address says, I don't know, Instagram verify securityportal.com instead of the real domain.
Exactly. And it works on both ends of the emotional spectrum, by the way. They use fear and urgency, account banned, suspicious login detected, but they also use sudden greed.
Oh, like the lottery scam.
All right, you've been selected for a cash giveaway, or click here to claim your prize. Any message that causes a sudden, intense spike in emotion is designed specifically to bypass your prefrontal cortex.
So what's the move?
Oh.
Because obviously, as informed digital citizens, we all have our baseline defenses set up. If you aren't using an authenticator app for your two-factor authentication by now, you're essentially leaving your front door wide open. But the scammers know we use 2FA. They built these real-time proxy sites that just intercept your 2FA token the moment you type it in.
Which is why the ultimate rule of thumb here isn't actually technological, it's behavioral. If a message, an email, or a notification creates sudden panic or sudden euphoria, you have to recognize that your brain is being hacked. You have to physically step away from the device, take a breath, do not click the link provided in the message.
So you just pause.
Yes. If you are worried your account actually has an issue, open a completely separate browser window, manually type in the website URL yourself, and check your account status from the inside.
Okay, so we've looked at scammers exploiting our fast automatic thinking with QR codes and our sudden emotional spikes with social media phishing. But what happens when they target our slow, deliberative thinking? Because this is where the transcript dives into something incredibly sinister, the long con.
Yeah, we are moving from the sudden shock to the slow boil here. And this is particularly devastating because it preys on hope. The research categorizes these under general online scams, but the most prominent and destructive right now are these employment and investment frauds.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's walk through the WhatsApp job scam that's detailed in the material. Someone receives a message offering a flexible, work-from-home job, promising earnings of anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 rupees a day.
Which sounds great, right?
Right. Now, normally a skeptical person just ignores that. But the scammer is patient. They don't ask for money up front. To build trust, they assign the victim some trivial online tasks.
Things that take no real effort.
Yeah, maybe liking a few specific YouTube videos, rating a hotel on Google Maps, or leaving a product review. The victim spends maybe 20 minutes doing this, reports back, and then the scammer actually pays them.
That's the hook.
500 rupees is deposited directly into the victim's bank account. Real spendable money.
It is an absolute masterclass in psychological manipulation. By paying that initial sum, they establish absolute legitimacy in the mind of the victim. They provide tangible proof that the system works.
It's exactly like a casino handing out free chips at the door, or a bartender giving you a free shot. They intentionally take a small loss up front because they know it hooks you into the game. You sit there thinking, hey, I just made 500 rupees while drinking my morning coffee.
And that dopamine hit is crucial. But they are also exploiting a very powerful evolutionary quirk here, the illusion of reciprocity.
What do you mean?
Well, throughout human history, if someone gave you something of value, social cohesion dictated that you owed them. You feel this subconscious, deeply ingrained obligation to play along because they have proven themselves to be generous.
So the victim is feeling good, they trust this new quote-unquote employer, and then the trap snaps shut. The scammer says, great work today, you've proven you're reliable. Now, to unlock the VIP tasks, the ones that pay 5,000 rupees a day, you just need to register for our premium tier.
Right, here comes the fee.
Exactly. It requires a one-time refundable security deposit of 10,000 rupees.
And this is where the sunk cost fallacy takes over the victim's reasoning entirely.
Right, because the victim is already invested. They've spent their time, they've built a rapport with this recruiter, and they've already seen a real return on their effort.
The victim's brain starts to rationalize the risk. They think, well, they already paid me once, so they must be a legitimate company. They transfer the 10,000 rupees to unlock the higher tier. And the absolute moment that transfer clears the banking system, the recruiter blocks their number, the WhatsApp account disappears, and the money is gone.
It is incredibly predatory. What really stood out to me in the research, though, is the demographic data. The victims of these long cons and the quick panic scams, they aren't just people who are new to the internet.
Not at all.
We are talking about teachers, software engineers, shop owners, retirees. The sheer volume of this in India is staggering. Thousands of complaints are registered daily, crores lost annually.
Which really reinforces the core thesis of this entire deep dive. This is not a failure of technical understanding. It is a vulnerability in human nature being exploited on an industrialized scale. I mean, the scammers are running call centers, they have scripts, they even A/B test their manipulation tactics to see which emotional triggers yield the highest conversion rates.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If the victims are just regular, informed people going about their day, what is the actual takeaway? The goal surely isn't to live in a state of constant, exhausting paranoia. treating every Google Pay notification or job offer like it's a pipe bomb. We still have to live and operate in a digital society.
The goal is absolutely not paranoia. Paranoia is paralyzing. The research really advocates for a fundamental shift in our baseline digital posture. We need to transition from blind trust to verified awareness.
Verified awareness.
Yeah, think of it like looking both ways before crossing a one-way street. You aren't paranoid that every single car is actively trying to run you over, but you check anyway because you understand the physics of the road and the reality of the risk.
Verified awareness. I love that framing. But let's get highly practical for a second. Let's say the worst happens. You were tired, you were distracted, the amygdala hijack worked, and the trap snapped shut.
It happens to the best of us.
The money has left your account. The instinct is just pure panic and, honestly, shame. But the data here shows there is an actual defense playbook. Time is the only metric that matters, and your very first move isn't actually calling your bank.
That's a crucial point. If you realize you've been compromised, the very first step immediately is to dial 1930. That is the National Cybercrime Helpline in India.
And why 1930 before the bank?
Because the 1930 helpline is integrated directly with the financial ecosystem and the police network. When you report a fraudulent transaction there immediately, they can initiate a freeze on the transaction chain across different banks and wallets.
Oh, that's smart.
Scammers don't just keep the money in the first account it hits. They bounce it through a labyrinth of mule accounts to launder it or convert it to crypto. Calling 1930 gives the authorities a mathematical chance to freeze those funds before they exit the grid entirely.
Okay, so step one, call 1930 immediately.
Step 2 is to formalize the complaint on the official government portal, which is cybercrime.gov.in. This creates the legal paper trail that's required for investigations and bank disputes.
And then step 3 is hitting the bank.
Yes. Inform your bank immediately to block your accounts, freeze your debit or credit cards, and flag the transaction. Do not wait until the next morning. Do not wait to see if the money bounces back. Quick, decisive action strips the scammers of the time they need to cover their tracks.
It is incredibly empowering to know that there is a structural safety net. You aren't just helpless if you make a mistake. The tools exist, but you have to deploy them instantly.
It's about taking control of the narrative. The shame of being scammed often delays victims from reporting it. The scammers actually rely on your embarrassment. You have to bypass the shame and just execute the playbook.
As we wrap up this deep dive, the overarching message from the research is crystal clear. The architecture of deception in digital India is sophisticated, it is deeply psychological, and it is everywhere. But awareness is the ultimate shield. We can absolutely enjoy the incredible frictionless convenience of these digital platforms safely as long as we train ourselves to recognize when our own biology and psychology are being used against us.
We constantly update the software on our phones to patch security vulnerabilities. We have to be just as diligent about manually updating our critical thinking.
Think before you click and verify before you trust. And that brings us back to that chilling quote. Scammers don't hack systems, they hack people. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. If the defining crime of our modern era relies entirely on weaponizing human trust, hijacking our desire to be helpful, our instinct to reciprocate kindness, and our natural empathy, what does the future of that trust look like? As digital communication becomes even more integrated into quite literally every second of our lives, are we going to be forced to unlearn our own natural empathy just to survive the digital age? It's a heavy question, but as the landscape changes, it's one we all need to be thinking about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay sharp and stay safe out there.